This is another edition of WION's Speed News with our signer, Ms. Rajni. Let's get you started. In a major security breach, 2 men opened gas canisters that emitted yellow smoke in the lower house of the parliament in India. While one intruder jumped down from the visitors' gallery, the other remained in the gallery. The House proceedings were abruptly adjourned. Both men were overpowered by members of parliament and security staff. The suspect has been apprehended and taken into custody. In a separate incident, a woman and a man used similar smoke canisters while shouting slogans in front of Parliament House. They have also been detained, and notably, it's all happening on the 13th of December, which marks exactly 22 years since the terror attack on the Indian Parliament. Leaders present inside the Indian Parliament said they saw a man jumping from the visitors' gallery, while the other made his way towards the Speaker's chair by jumping on the desks. MPs inside the House told reporters that the intruders were chanting slogans such as "Tanashahi nahi chalegi," which loosely translates to "dictatorship won't be accepted." As of now, the parliament has resumed operation. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla said the authorities have investigated the matter and that there's no cause for concern. The United Nations General Assembly overwhelmingly voted for a ceasefire in Gaza. Out of 193 nations, 153 backed the calls for a ceasefire, while 10 countries voted against and 23 abstained from voting. Refusing calls for ceasefire, Israeli envoy held aloft a placard with a telephone number and the name and image of Yahya Sinwar, who is a Hamas leader in Gaza. He said, "If anyone wants a real ceasefire, this is the right address." US Ambassador to the UN, Linda Greenfield, told the General Assembly that there were aspects of the resolution that the US supported, such as the need to urgently address the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza, protect the civilians, and free the hostages. But she also said that any ceasefire will be dangerous for Israelis. The Israeli army has released a video showing strikes in Lebanon and Syria. In a Telegram post, the Israeli army said IDF aircraft and tanks struck a number of military posts and infrastructure belonging to the Syrian army. Violence escalated at Lebanon's border with Israel as Hezbollah launched explosive drones and powerful missiles at Israeli positions. Israel and the Iran-backed Hezbollah have been trading fire since the war erupted 2 months ago. The violence has largely been contained to the border area. Yemen's Houthi rebels have claimed responsibility for a missile strike on a Norwegian commercial tanker off the coast of Yemen in the Red Sea. The missile attack caused a large fire on board the ship. Randa is the name of the ship. According to a Houthi military spokesperson, the vessel was allegedly delivering crude oil to an Israeli terminal. This after the crew ignored continuous Houthi warnings against going to Israel. However, the tanker's owner, a Norwegian company, has disputed this claim. It stated that the vessel was headed towards Italy with a cargo of biofuel feedstock and not crude oil. A Pentagon spokesperson referred to the attack as destabilizing in nature of Houthi actions. The Israeli Agency for Civilian Coordination released a video showing aid trucks being inspected and transferred to Gaza. According to the coordination group, 197 aid trucks were screened and directed towards Gaza via the Kerem Shalom crossing. The agency said 117 of these trucks were inspected at Nitzana and 80 at Kerem Shalom. A new process for inspecting aid for Gaza at the Kerem Shalom crossing is being tested. However, efforts to get permission for trucks to enter through the crossing and ramp up relief are still going on. Ukrainian President Zelensky announced on social media that his troops had taken a key strategic location in the Donbas region in the far east of the country. The foothold provides a vantage point over the front line near Pivden, a mining town to the northwest of the Donetsk city. Zelensky posted a video showing a Ukrainian flag being raised on a spoil tip. Hundreds of spoil tips scattered across the Donetsk and Luhansk regions have become of military importance since the Russian invasion in 2014. Controlling the spoil tip might enable Ukrainian troops to gain fire control over a patch of front line. As Zelensky continues to push for more financial aid from US, Joe Biden told Zelensky that Washington will not abandon Kiev, even as Republicans signaled opposition to extending US war funding. Standing alongside the Ukrainian leader at a White House press conference, Biden vowed, "I will not walk away from Ukraine, and neither will the American people." The US president warned against allowing a Ukrainian defeat. Leading Republican leaders are insisting that renewing Ukraine aid will depend on Democrats first agreeing to major immigration reforms. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson expressed little enthusiasm for approving Biden's request for $60 billion in new assistance. The government of Finland has decided to temporarily reopen two of its land borders with Russia later this week. This comes 2 weeks after Helsinki closed the entire frontier following a Moscow-backed increase of undocumented migrants attempting to cross into Finland. Moscow has repeatedly denied the claims. The Russian Foreign Ministry has said that closing a number of checkpoints on the border is unequivocally provocative. Finland's Prime Minister on Tuesday announced that while most closures would remain, the Valima and Nitrala border crossing would be reopened from Thursday. Tensions between Helsinki and Moscow have escalated since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak received a huge relief for now, as lawmakers voted in favour of the government's latest bill to send migrants to Rwanda. The bill had emerged as a massive problem for Sunak, as it has split the ruling Conservative Party. The emergency bill was the government's response to the Supreme Court's unanimous decision in November. The court said that deporting asylum seekers to Rwanda was unconstitutional under international law. The parliamentary vote saw 313 MPs vote for the safety of Rwanda asylum and immigration bill, with 269 against. Sunak's plan is part of wider government action to reduce record levels of regular and irregular immigration. The immigration issue is expected to take centre stage at next year's election. Chinese President Xi Jinping attended a welcome banquet held by the General Secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Vietnam. Before the banquet, Xi Jinping held talks with Trong, during which both sides agreed to build a China-Vietnam community. Both the countries have expressed to deepen strategic cooperative partnership. Xi Jinping is currently in Vietnam for a 2-day state visit. A far-right Polish lawmaker used a fire extinguisher to put out Hanukkah candles. And this led the speaker to oust him from the sitting. Braun's act in parliament has sparked an outrage across the nation. Local media showed Braun taking the extinguisher before walking across the lobby of Parliament to douse the candles, creating a white cloud in the area. However, this was not the end of his act. The lawmaker then took to the podium, where he described Hanukkah as satanic. He reasoned that he was restoring normality. Right after he spoke, Braun then left the chamber as he shook hands with other far-right lawmakers. Argentina has announced a sharp devaluation of its currency and cuts to energy and transportation subsidies. This comes as the country's new president, Javier Milei, says are shock adjustments needed to deal with an economic emergency. Milei said the country did not have time to consider other alternatives. Argentina's economy minister said in a televised message that the Argentine peso will be devalued by 50% to 800 pesos per dollar. As part of the new measures, Caputo said the government is also cancelling tenders of any public works projects, as well as cutting some state jobs to reduce the size of the government. The IMF welcomed the measures, saying they provide a good foundation for further discussions. Thousands of Slovaks are staging protests across the country against plans by Prime Minister Robert Fico's government to fast-track criminal law changes. This includes scrapping a special prosecutor's office focused on corruption. In the capital city of Bratislava, protesters waved Slovak and European Union flags and shouted, "Enough of Fico." Fico's government aims to approve the legislation by Christmas that would disband the special prosecutor's office by January. The special prosecutor's office has been in place for 2 decades to battle graft and organized crime. Slovak President Zuzana Kaputova has said the proposed changes could weaken the position of whistleblowers. According to a new report by the United Nations, a record 49 million people are expected to go hungry in West and Central Africa next year due to a combination of conflict, climate change and high food prices. The figure is 4% higher than 2023. In coastal countries, the number of people facing acute hunger is expected to reach 6.2 million in 2024, a 16% increase from this year. The UN World Food Programme report says the cost of a daily nutritious diet in the central Sahel countries Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger is 110% higher than the daily minimum wage in the region. Then on the other hand, the Sahel countries are facing an Islamist insurgency that has displaced some 4 million people from their homes and farms. A large number of migrants are waiting to be processed and transported to temporary processing centers after crossing the Arizona border from Mexico. Migrants from different countries in Africa and Latin America were seen near the border town of Lukeville, gathering near the border wall or walking towards the centers. In recent months, the Lukeville area has gained popularity among migrants who cross the border from Mexico into the US, leaving the authorities short-handed. After the extension of climate deal negotiations beyond schedule at the Dubai COP28, the summit's presidency has adopted first ever UN climate deal. Nations have been directed to transition away from fossil fuels. According to the European Union, for the first time in 30 years, the deal signals the beginning of the end for fossil fuels. However, the deal was met with fierce resistance from the oil-producing group OPEC and its allies. In the original proposal, Iran and Saudi Arabia were at the forefront of rejecting a complete phase-out of fossil fuels. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Arctic report. The Arctic experienced the warmest summer on record this year, contributing to extraordinary wildfires and melting glaciers. This is threatening the rest of the world with problems including higher sea levels. Summer surface air temperatures in the Arctic were the highest since at least 1900, as the Arctic continues to warm twice as fast as the rest of the globe. The annual report showed more frequent extreme weather and climate events with global impact. The report found that irreversible climate harms caused by an overheating Arctic will continue to reverberate across North America and Eurasia. Not many police forces around the world get to drive a top-of-the-range Lamborghini. But the 2023 Lamborghini Eurus has been called for duty by the Italian police. It will join a fleet of existing supercars used for emergency medical services. The car is a 666 horsepower SUV that will be operating from 2024 and will be used for special services, including urgent medical transport of organs and plasma. The supercar joins the two Lamborghini Huracan LP610-4S already in use. It is the sixth Lamborghini to join the police fleet since the collaboration between the car maker and Italian police began in 2004. Italian police also uses Lamborghini cars in awareness-raising activities aimed at spreading the culture of safe driving. Electric automaker Tesla has received land use permits from Mexico's Federal Environment Ministry to build a planned Gigafactory in the northern border state of Nuevo Leon. The state government said that the land designated for the plant spans around 645 acres. The automaker in March announced plans for a new factory in Mexico without providing a timeline for construction.